should be talking about treason? Why is Congress talking about tax cuts when they should be talking about treason?
Okay, let me tell you what that was about. Russian flags rained down near the president as he made his way on Capitol Hill for a lunch with Republican senators today. That protester was standing with reporters when he threw the flags and shouted, "Why are you talking about tax cuts when we should be talking about treason?" He's identified as Ryan Clayton, a Sterling, Virginia resident who was protesting as part of a group called Americans Take Action. He's been charged with unlawful conduct. President was meeting with GOP senators to talk about tax legislation. The goal of the sit-down was to rally GOP support. It looks like it may be an uphill battle at this point. Mola Lenghi has been following the tax story. He joins us live from Capitol Hill. Mola, thanks for joining us tonight. What can you bring us? What can you tell us about Republicans?
Well, Bruce, as you mentioned, the president stopped by to try to drum up support for a tax reform plan, as if the Republicans really need nudging in that direction. That is their issue, and this comes in the midst of all of the fighting that you're describing. Now, the Republicans will tell you that the party is unified. In a sense, that is true. Ideologically, tax reform is perhaps the unifying issue in the Republican Party. It is their holy grail. But in another sense, this party is far from united. Look no further than some of the spats the president has had with some of his fellow Republicans. And he's gone after some of the most established Republicans that exist in this party. Mitch McConnell, the Senate Majority Leader. You mentioned Bob Corker, the chair of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee. John McCain, who among other things was once the Republican nominee for president. So the infighting is not just political. Some of these senators have questioned the president's fitness for the Oval Office. So this goes beyond the ideological. But again, tax reform is the glue that might just hold all of this together. The question is, Bruce, will it hold? The hope in the GOP is that they can sort of weather the storm, they can look beyond and get beyond this infighting and sort of take advantage of the fact that they control Congress and the White House in the hopes of, of passing some sort of tax reform legislation. And the House and the Senate, they are laser focused. They want nothing more than to pass tax reform, than to focus on tax reform. They don't want to answer questions from people like you and me, Bruce, about, tweets and feuds. That sort of takes away from their goal of passing tax reform. But as we've seen, this president, in his particular style, in his particular brand of politics, tends to bring these sort of peripheral issues to the forefront. And these are the sort of issues that Republicans say only distracts them from some of their ultimate goals.
Yeah, Mola, thanks a lot for that. From where we sit down here in Upper Northwest, we can't find any one thing at this point where the Republicans can agree on that will represent a major change, a major tax reform. What about there on Capitol Hill? You're up there every day. Can you tell us one major change that is almost certain with the Republican majority?
Well, I mean, it really is tax reform. This is their issue. This is not a new issue for Republicans. Democrats may be sitting back, and from their perspective, this may look, they may be enjoying, you could say, what they see as a Republican implosion here in the Republican Party. But tax reform is supposed to be that issue that brings the party together. But it's all of these other sort of distractions, and the question is whether the White House, in the view of some of these Republicans, will continue to distract. But another way to look at this is, Senators Corker and Flake have been as critical as really any Democrats have been of this president. Those two are now on their way out. So the White House may be viewing this in, when they're doing their political calculations, as a victory of sorts. Sort of get those two and the people who are like them out of the way, and then start supporting some candidates for Senate, some candidates in the primaries who can support the president and who are not critical and who do not stand up to the president. And in that way, they may have some allies in place of some senators who are often critical, and the White House can then pursue some of their agenda. But tax reform, again, Bruce, the White House says that is their top priority right now. That is always the Republicans' top priority, and it should be an easy goal.
Should be. Okay. Mola Lenghi, thanks a lot for that. We'll stay in touch.